What will we see from Triple G? We are making the rounds here on ESPN.com. Jim Basquil joined by Dan Rafael and Nigel Collins as Brian Campbell has the week off. The next test for middleweight titleist Gennady Golovkin comes in less than 2 weeks against former title holder Daniel Geale on July 26th at Madison Square Garden. The HBO bout will represent Golovkin's 11th title defense against his most accomplished opponent. ESPN boxing insider Dan Rafael, what type of challenge does the Australian pose for Triple G?
You know, Danny Geale is a good challenger for Gennady Golovkin. I mean, Gennady's been around a while. He's going to be making his 11th title defense. And as much as everybody loves watching him, as exciting as he is, you know, you have to admit he has not faced the very best fighters yet. Now, that's not his fault. He's been willing to do that. Daniel Geale is the perfect opponent at this stage of Gennady's career. He's a very reputable fighter, clearly a top 5 or 6 middleweight in the world. He's not afraid of anything. The guy's been overseas multiple times. He won 2 world titles in Germany where it's very difficult to get a decision. He got the job done. He's a guy that comes to fight, a guy who's fearless, a guy who's got decent power, a guy who's got good skills, and a guy that really has a desire to fight the top guys. Just look at his resume. So I think we're going to see a very good fight. We're going to see Gennady Golovkin hopefully get some kind of test because he's been just blitzing through everybody. And, you know, Danny Gale's going to be there. I think if fans are going to enjoy the fight, and it should be at least a decent test for Triple G compared to the other fighters he has faced.
Absolutely. ESPN boxing contributor Nigel Collins. Golovkin comes into this fight 29-0 with 26 knockouts. In order to keep that Triple G train moving along, what do you need to see from him against Geale?
I think what he needs is another spectacular knockout. We are all familiar with Triple G, but he's relatively unknown outside of hardcore boxing circles. He needs a big fight against a real big name. He hasn't had that yet. And Geale is a good fight for this period, but in order to keep the buzz going, he's got to knock it out, and he's got to look spectacular.
Hey, Dan, the unexpected death of his father canceled a title defense against Andy Lee. So this has been a long layoff for Golovkin. How might that impact his performance in the ring?
You know, it's funny. People say, oh, he hasn't fought in a while because they had to cancel that April fight. But the fact is, this is not any kind of significant layoff at all because most fighters would not have had that fight in April because Gennady just fought at the beginning of this year. He already has one fight in the bank so far this year. So the fact that that April fight was canceled, you know, and he's been fighting so much that people think it's a long layoff. But the reality is it's really not. He's going to have the fight he had at the beginning of the year. He's going to have this fight coming up in April, and he's going to fight again at the end of the year. So for an elite fighter to have 3 fights when most elite fighters only have 2 fights, he was going to have 4 fights. So the layoff means absolutely nothing.
Fair enough. Nigel, what is at stake for the winner?
Well, obviously at stake is the future of their career. The biggest name in the middleweight division right now is obviously Cotto, and he probably is not going to fight Triple G next. So he needs to find somebody that the fans think can put up a fight and attract an audience. There's been a lot of talk in the past about with a fight with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., which will be great because Chavez Jr. is very well known. I'd like to eventually see him fight Andre Ward. I think Triple G might be the fighter that can unlock the puzzle that Andre Ward has been for all of his opponents so far.
Looking ahead at Triple G from MSG, his next fight against Daniel Geale on July 26th. We are making the rounds right here on the boxing page of ESPN.com. For Dan Rafael and Nigel Collins, I'm Jim Basquil.